What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle. It is week 3 for the Steadfast Stewards update, the Subdate, as it's actually being called by Red Hook themselves. I didn't make that up. And this week, it's the beginning of Runaway and her rework, which means, if I had to guess, with no inside info, next is Hellion, and then the final one is Leper. Personally, I wish they flipped the order, because Leper needs it the most, and they started from there, so we had the most time. But we're doing it this way. And so with that in mind, we're getting not just Runaway changes, we got a little bit of Ritualist changes, and some Plague Doctor changes. And we're looking at some system stuff, like memories, and a couple ones I'm really excited about. Memories. Heroes no longer get re-rolled if they have a memory slot available, even if it's empty. Ooh. Added the ability to re-roll memories. Interesting. Dev note, in order to facilitate testing, we've added this feature right now. The amount and price are made to be easy for testing. Feature also currently enabled, or it is always enabled, can cause weird behavior. Okay, so you can re-roll memories, and they've changed a lot of the bad ones. Second chance, no longer 5 deathblow resist. Instead, it is on entering Death's Door, heal 10% once per region. You know, that might bail you out. A Summer's Day, replace 15% travel healing with 10% resolute chance. Pretty good. Token of Friendship, replace 10% positive banner with 10% healing given from skills. So that's, you know, all of these are fitting, but in terms of who's getting what, this is definitely limited to, I was going to say only a few of the cast, but like even on the self heals, this could be good. Anyway, a long day's work, replace combat start minus stress 40% of the time with 10 debuff res piercing. Fresh bread, 5% max HP buff, now lasts until the end of the expedition. I don't know if this is stackable or you do it once, you get 5%. It'd be kind of crazy if it was stackable. A lucky break, replace the combat start dodge token with gain when dodging, minus 1 stress 25% of the time. That's a lot like the quirk called Daredevil, where if you dodge you get stress lowered, but also you don't get like the chance of vuln and whatever else that quirk does. So it's just one little part. Father's Praise, replace combat start block token with 1 regen dealt. That is, you know what, actually with the Occultist change, where, I forget which one it is, I think it's Warlock, he gets regeneration now. Not bad. So there are a few targets for that. After discussions with the community, this was all like talked about yesterday, so I'm surprised they got in so fast. You learn this preference to retain many of the passive buffs such as increased resist, damage, speed, etc. There's also been a desire to keep buffs and effects on the simpler side, so there are many, or since there are many other triggered effects from item skills, these changes focused on improving the low performing memories and replacing them with more useful simple buffs. Okay. Favorite toy is on our radar as a highly potent memory. We're typically in favor of buffs or nerfs. I think they mean buffs over nerfs. So we want to see how things shake out. This right here, the we're in favor of buffs over nerfs thing, this is a reaction to a lot of people who just go, why nerf anything? Just buff it. Just buff everything. You know, eventually keep doing that, you're going to power creep your own game. So that's why it's okay to nerf the outliers. And I think that they're being a little too cautious, but I understand considering the position that they're in. These all sound pretty cool. I thought the 5% DBR, I don't know. DBR never works, so. Ordainment, Act 5 buff now has apply to attacker when crit, blight for 3 turns. Reverted ordainment damage buff from flat damage to percentage. Sadness. But we're looking into adjusting how weak tokens are calculated. So, I don't think either of these are the correct move. Like, should they get percentage damage? You know, that makes some of the heavy hitters hit way too damn hard. But at the same time, flat damage made some things that shouldn't even be hitting hard hit a lot harder. The answer is to go through and tweak things individually, but we don't have that luxury. I'm just glad that they're looking into how weak tokens are calculated, because since everything's an additive percentage, weak tokens didn't actually cut damage by 50%. It cut it by either 10% if you go by what I say, because ordainment's plus 40 and then weaken's minus 50, so it's minus 10. Or you can say it did it a different way and the math comes out to like 35%. Either way, it's not 50. Gameplay, reduce librarian burn res from immune to 100. Okay. It's an odd choice. I mean, this is just so... Actually, they're putting more burn into the game. And none of the other bosses that are resistant to something, like Harvest Child's resistant to Blight, they're not immune. They're just, you know, got higher resist, so... Shambler Trinkets updated. Collector Lifesteal now has a 1-turn cooldown. Alright, that's a nice bandage fix, but I do kind of want them to adjust it a little more. Just because the cooldown wasn't necessarily the problem. It's like the healing and the fact that it like taunts you and does 3 bleed. Like, there's a lot of stuff happening with that move. And it wasn't necessarily the fact that it spammed it. It felt bad because it got spammed. But you could also take some power out of the move, and so when it spams it, it doesn't feel like crap. Like, as bad. Fix the death occasionally spawning catacomb repair fights. Focus Fault replaced with 100% damage per scene token to +8. No more crit 72. That's pretty cool. This should scale better with weak tokens. I feel very heard with these two, because I complain about weak tokens so much. And I caught some shit, but now they're fixing them. Fix issue with the torch, issue, so various bug fixes, etc. This is some cool stuff that I've been wanting for a while, and not just me, a lot of people. Added a combat speed in-game options. Finally. Finally. We've rolled out the option that will allow you to increase your combat speed to 1.5 times default. It's also increased the game audio to match and remain in sync. The game will revert game speed to 1 for all in-combat cinematics such as boss intros, death resolve checks, and then resume to 1.5. Adding driving speed to the game options. We've rolled out the option to let you increase the driving speed to 1.5. Updated. Jester, Wanderer, Finale, Crusader, Smite, Reap for Aggressor. All these things will trigger when killing a corpse. Okay. Yeah, they jump back and forth with this too quick. I really didn't keep up with them, like, triggering stuff on corpse kill. So, they changed all that. Alright, now. Let's see. Plague Doctor had, like, a small section. Surgeon, Battlefield Medicine Tooltip no longer incorrectly lists bleed twice. Physician, Noxious Blast no longer has debuff res pierced against comboed when unmastered. Physician, Noxious Blast reduced weak tokens from 2 to 1. I am a little hesitant with what they're doing now that we're 3 weeks in. Because when they are changing some of these skills, they make the mastered versions pretty much have everything. Like 10 crit, extra effects, extra tokens. And it's like, we shouldn't... Like, it's good to master things, but you don't want the power level between unmastered and mastered to be to the point where unmastered feels freaking terrible. Because you're not going to get to master every skill in most runs. And so there are sometimes, depending on the layout you get and stuff like that for the regions and what events you get, your luck with the actual mastery drops, you can go runs where you don't get a lot of it. So if we keep making all the master versions, it sounds weird to argue like this, because you do want the master ones to feel better. But I'm afraid they're making them too better. Like, too much better. Too much stronger. Or stronger than they need to be. I don't know. Occultist. Wanderer, Binding Shadows, and BS Plus. Ignore their combo effect if the Occultist has stealth. Okay, so it doesn't consume the token. Ritualist. You know, when the Occultist stuff came out, most of the conversation was around Warlock. And it kind of seems like Warlock's smoothing out for a lot of people. And they're all going, wait a minute, what about Ritualist? Because Wanderer's okay, Aspirant's cool. Warlock is big damage, and like Chaotic Offering, I'm not a fan of how it works, but if people like it, I'm not gonna fight to get rid of it. But Ritualist, my favorite Occultist path, man. It's gotta be decent. Abyssal Artillery no longer has a chance to apply combo unmastered. Artillery and Artillery Plus now spend 2 unchecked power to apply blind. Dev note. There's a lot of division of the speed token on crits. I don't know, I think a lot of people didn't like it. Ultimately, we felt that more people were against it than for it. That being the case, we decided to move to a version that allowed powerful debuff tokens at the cost of unchecked power. That would also benefit from the unchecked power's passive debuff resist piercing. That's cool. While this makes it similar to Blinding Gas, we believe the damage component, piercing, and cost help differentiate it. Further, combo was removed from the base version to differentiate it from Wanderer's Unmastered to Abyssal Artillery. Or Wanderer's Abyssal Artillery. Malediction no longer pierces debuff resist inherently. Duration increased from 2 to 3 rounds. Malediction unchecked power costs reduced from 3 to 2. Malediction Plus defensive token distribution adjusted from 30 block and dodge to 15 block plus, dodge plus. So it's still 60%. Well, it's not a 60% chance to get something. It's like 15 instead of 30, but it's just rolled 4 times for different things. Piercing on the skill took away from Ritual's core capacity of being able to res pierce via unchecked power. That's fine. Likely returning all unchecked power skills to the original design of having the same cost when unmastered. But at reduced power, and this first one reflects that. Increases to duration have been made to make this more accessible. Sack Stab Plus now buffs Ritualist speed by 3 for 3 turns when killing a corpse, and now it shares Wanderer's bonus damage against corpses. Bring Ritualist Sack Stab into alignment with Wanderers, it retains the reduced unchecked power generation, as Ritualist has other skills for it, but a non-token speed buff to help get those debuffs out faster. Cool. Vuln Hex and Vuln Hex Plus increase tokens from 1 back to 2. We're going to see something with Runaway 2, and I'm going to say it now because we're at Occultist. I'm glad they returned it to 2 unchecked power, or 2 Vulns. Because what we've always been asking for years is just more ways to theory craft teams, more ways to interact with your team, you know, have them build off each other, and just have something to do that's not slamming your highest damage button every turn. So when they originally rolled out the Warlock Ritualist changes, which made it so you don't remove block before applying Vuln, and you don't remove strength or crit before applying weak, like that kind of stuff felt bad, because if you want things that are debuff focused, you know, like not just raw damage, if you want them to be strong enough for someone to put it on the bar and actually press it, they have to be powerful. It's going to have a cooldown. It has to be powerful. And we're going to see that with Smokescreen here in a minute. But that's what I'm saying. You know, a lot of it's getting reworked right now, but some of the stuff out there in terms of just the value you can get with the damage you put out is just usually higher than any debuff. So you don't need to debuff stuff. But we want to. You know, the debuff tokens are in the game. We want to use them, hit stuff with them, and watch the enemy interact with it. This is a step back to that direction. Golden Hex now applies a debuff. If the target dies, the Occultist gets 1 unchecked power. The debuff lasts the entire battle. What if you hit it on them like multiple times? Does it stack? You just kill something and get like 3 unchecked power? We felt Golden Hex needed a little something more when Master, but still needed to stand apart from Wander. So this version has an additional method of feeding unchecked power to Occultists at the expense of block removal. The unmastered version does currently rate as Wanderers, but slightly better. But there's little that can be taken away from the unmastered version on Ritualist, so I'm making it unsatisfying. Weakening Curse now applies 1-turn version of the master version's debuff, granting unchecked power if the target attacks. Cool. The crit increased from 10 to 15. Are we going to have, again, another 5% crit jump to 15? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. A lot of these moves, if they're going to do that, just bring the base crit up to 10. Especially with, like, a debuff move. Like, it's not doing too much. Get a little bit of piercing. It's like, just bring it up to 10. So people get, like, stress heals. Limit duration means that timing it for maximum effect will be strict. The reason I'm not liking these random crit bumps is for, like, what I said before in terms of just making the mastered version so much better that you don't even want to slot the unmastered version. And the other is that just throwing extra crit randomly around like this doesn't feel like it means anything at the same time. Like, why do you want it to be different if it doesn't mean anything? I can't explain it, alright? But what I'm thinking is, like, the moves are being tuned in such a way where it's like, how can we make this look better without doing anything major and giving it more bite or something like that? We'll just give it 5 more crits. I don't know. I wouldn't be against it if they didn't throw it on literally everything in this update so far. Like, there are 5 or 6 instances, maybe more, of this that have been happening. Updated Occultist trinkets. They're actually pretty cool, too. Alright. Runaway Z. Runaway's kit has been adjusted to provide her with some previously lacking options for stealth synergy, res piercing, and general improvements to utility skills. Few skills, Backdraft, Hearthlight, received any extensive revisions. Most received refinements in power or identity, particularly in regards to her activities in the front ranks. So if you like camping her in the back and throwing Firefly, they're slightly nerfing that. Backdraft and Backdraft Plus. Cooldown increase from 1 to 2. Backdraft and Backdraft Plus now benefit from all standard damage affecting tokens, trinkets, and other sources. If you haven't played, like, in the earlier versions of the game, early access, and I forget when they actually changed this for Backdraft. Backdraft used to scale with damage modifiers. And it was just a fun thing to do, because burn wasn't, like, mega common. You only had, like, 2 characters that could do it. And so if you're able to set up a ton of burn, you can give her, like, a crit token, and you can backdraft something for, like, 26. Like, that's cool. It was fun. And they took that. And after they got rid of that scaling, Backdraft was literally never pressed again by anyone. It became that bad because it would just do like 7 damage and you already have Ransack or Firefly. So it's like, why just... I could just hit it. Backdraft now has a crit of 5 for 5%. Damage calculation increased from 50 of the burn to 75. Backdraft removes all burn from the source monster unmastered, which is totally cool. It's fine. Backdraft now has a crit value of 10, the master version. Damage calculation is 75. Dev notes the Runaway's dot bomb regains its previously unique nature among the skill type, allowing it to interact with all the standard tokens for better or worse. Man, don't throw the little jabs in there. Let people have fun. In addition to the dot-based calculation for damage, some values have been adjusted to keep it moderately in line in light of the recent increases to burn availability, and the unmastered version does retain some normalized dot bomb behavior. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know when this dot bomb like term showed up, but it's just referring to anything that scales with like damage over time on the enemy. And some of them remove its, like I think Flagellant Sepsis unmastered. I think that removes, or uncomboed, it removes it. I think. Forget which one. Anyway. This one, like, part of the reason I'm starting to change my stance on not throwing out too many opinions in this is because from what I'm seeing, I just feel that it's probably in the best interest of the community if I at least weigh in on some of these changes. With that said, before even reading it, this Cauterize change is god-awful. It's awful. Hopefully it gets fixed, but let's see. Cauterize and Cauterize Plus launch ranks change from 2-3-4 to 1-2-3. So you can't camp Bonnie in rank 4, get Cauterize, Smokescreen, Firefly. That's gone. For now. Cauterize, both versions no longer require that the target is bleeding. Cauterize now only provides the 25% heal if the target has bleed. Otherwise, it heals for 1 point. The mastered version now only provides the 33% heal if the target's bleeding. Otherwise, it heals for 5%. Which on most characters that aren't tanks, it's still about 2 HP. Dev note. Being unable to use Cauterize in rank 1 didn't feel great for a character that can easily dance to the front. We adjusted the condition restriction to allow for desperate death's door saves, and to give some legitimacy to all those heroes getting angry that they aren't on the receiving end of the hot poker. So, what they're trying to work around here is something that's been in the game for like, I don't know, 3 years, or maybe the entire time, I can't remember. Where, since it's a heal, Cauterize can cause you to lose affinity with someone even if the heal can't apply. If they're at full HP or not bleeding, there's no point to healing them, you know? And so they get pissed off. And you lose affinity, and that felt garbage. So there were a couple ways to handle this. The first is what they're doing, where they rework Cauterize so the affinity hit is at least understandable. The other was to just take it out of the affinity pool. I don't know, I'd rather have had it taken out of the affinity pool. Like, when I'm trying to save someone with Cauterize, I don't care if I'm giving them any affinity. I'm doing it to save them. And watching someone that can't get targeted by it get angry, yeah, that feels bad. So I don't understand why go this way. And at the same time, to work around that, look what had to happen to this heal. To make it so it could be applicable, it had to have actual healing and then bonus healing after. Instead of just doing it the other way and taking it out of the pool. So now Cauterize was a decent heal. You know, you only got 3 shots. It was a bleed cure. Bleed's really common. And now they just made it like, why would you ever slot this? I don't know. It's like, yeah, if you're not bleeding, I guess, I don't know, I guess it has the same, you know, is it technically a buff? Besides the rank? Because if you're using it for bleed curing, it still does the same thing. You can just now use it without bleed curing. So technically retains all of its previous usefulness. So I guess technically it's a buff. The answer to the problem is probably not healing someone for 1 point. Like, this is just so goofy. But whatever. Controlled burn. Now are considered ranged skills. I don't know what they were before. Were they untyped? Controlled burn initial non-token burn value reduced from 3 to 2. Mastered 4 to 3. So controlled burn initiate, or the first hit of it, nerf. Controlled burn plus now ignores guard, and the token itself, burn values are now compatible with debuff effects on monsters that influence dot values such as physician's cause of death. So I'm having a little bit of trouble parsing that one, but it just sounds like they made the follow-up burns more interactable with, you know, various statuses. And so they nerfed the initial application, which, you know, controlled burn wasn't dominating this game. But we'll just see how it works out, you know. You know, as all the other character stuff comes together, it'll probably make more sense. Burn values have been reduced to match the values of the token of the same name. So yeah, it's like when you hit them, you do 4, and then you check it, and it's like 3. So I'm assuming that's why. While external factors can now increase the continuous burn, this only applies to buffs debuffs on the monster, as the continued effect lives on the token and not the runaway. As an experiment, control burn is allowed to ignore guard tokens in order to place its rank lock. But being a non-damaging skill, it will not remove those tokens. Yeah, that's fine. It's totally fine. I think it's a great compromise. Dragonfly Plus now has burn res piercing, 20% when stealth. Firefly, or the Plus version, has burn res piercing, 20% when stealth. Firefly Base and Plus now apply their combo burn to the monster in front rather than randomly. We wanted to provide a little more incentive to spend a turn buffing an ally, and this was inspired by Mixless Survivor's version of the same skill. This also helps make up for the fact that she can never target herself with Firestarter. Hearthlight, both versions no longer ignore dodge. Hearthlight, both versions no longer have to hit a target to remove stealth. It's cleared from the enemy team regardless. Cool. Hearthlight, both versions now apply a minus 10% burn res debuff to all targets. Hearthlight, both versions can now apply combo on crits. Hearthlight Base now has a crit of 10% and can use crit tokens. Plus version has a crit of 15%. Hearthlight Plus no longer has a 25% chance of applying combo. Hearthlight Plus now grants 10% burn res piercing to all other heroes. Between Firestarter and Hearthlight, this will definitely make Bonnie the glue holding burn teams together, which is cool. I'm down with it. So she can apply it all over the place, she can buff other people, she can debuff the monsters. It's cool. And yeah, the best case scenario for Hearthlight has been Coven. Outside of that, a lot harder to pull off. Ransack and Ransack Plus now apply their combo burn effect to the monster in front rather than a neighbor. It's like the other one. Ransack Plus now has 20% burn res piercing when stealth, but Ransack does not burn on hit still. Yet. Searing Strike, both versions have had their implementation of bonus burn versus combo adjusted. Searing Strike base damage increased from 3 to 6 to 3 to 7. Searing Strike now gains an explicit plus 2 burn versus combo. Searing Strike Plus damage increased from 4 to 7 to 4 to 9. Plus version has 3 burn against combo. Searing Strike burn reduced from 3 to 2, so they want you to combo stuff. So pretty much just move the point from like the base damage out to, or like the normal on hit burn damage out to a combo. Searing Strike has a cleaner tooltip, bonus applies. Okay. Now this last one is where I get pretty annoyed. Smokescreen Plus Cooldown increased from 1 to 2. That means when you master it, it goes from 1 cooldown up to 2. This puts Smokescreen Plus in an awkward place of, do you actually master this? It gets stronger, but then it gets weaker at the same time. No other skill in the game does this. I really don't think that this is a good change. Smokescreen Crit Plus, or Crit chance on the Plus version, increased from 10 to 15, again meaning it goes from 5 to 15 mastery. This has largely been considered too powerful for its short cooldown, so we thought we'd try an experiment where only the master cooldown is increased. Given all of the added power the skill gains on mastery, the unmastered skill remains untouched and is slightly more spam capable, albeit less efficient. So here's the thing. Smokescreen Plus was incredibly strong. 1 cooldown, 2 blind tokens, 1 vuln token, and a combo token. That's a lot of good stuff. But control tools in this game, meaning the negative debuffs and stuff that you throw, the negative tokens you throw at the enemy, have historically been very weak. And so, what this does is, again, walks us back from having good control tools to having still good ones, but like weaker. You know, same thing as I was saying with Vuln Hex and Ritualist and all that. The reason Smokescreen was such a staple to Runaway is, for one, it could be used from anywhere, so it went into every build. 2, half of her moves were really bad. Old Hearthlight, very situational. Old Searing Strike, not good. Firefly was good. Cauterize was okay. Smokescreen Plus, obviously really good. Firestarter, not good. Dragonfly, still pretty good. Run and Hide had to get buffed before it became usable. Ransack, only super good on Orphan. So a lot of her moves just weren't good, you know? And so having something be good, like everyone just funneled to it, of course. Was it too powerful? Doubtful. But what I'm saying is that's the power level a debuff skill needs to be at in order to find space. Otherwise, there's no point. You know? Blinding Gas can blind enemies and combo on a 1-turn cooldown 2 enemies at a time. Still doesn't get used. Because damage is better. So there's a chance they walk this back. But they may not. Either way, I dislike that. That's it for the video. Let me know what you're thinking down below in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time.